After a wild race last week at Interlagos, we head back to the United States to Braselton, Georgia for round number 3 of 13 of the SRF Weekend Warriors 2020 Season 3 Championship. My name is Trini DeCuna, here with Eric Mickey in the booth with me this afternoon at SYM TV as we cover this round of the championship. And Eric, we saw some fantastic racing play out at Interlagos for the lead. I think we're definitely going to be in for a very similar treat here at Road Atlanta.
Today's race, after being with these guys last week, they put on a great show, and here at Road Atlanta you've got that long backstretch that I think you're going to see a lot of drivers just kind of waiting and getting as close as they can through the first half of the track, waiting until that backstretch opens up, and then you're going to see most of your passing probably done at the end of that long straight.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see already drivers down on the grid already qualifying as we get underway. But first but not least, I don't think that's the correct way to say that. But either way, got a sponsor to thank for, and that's 42 Stitches you see on the screen here. Whether it's that whether it's one piece for that special gift or 1,000 to make your organization stand out, 42 Stitches has you covered. Custom embroidery and heat transfer on a variety of items, shirts, hats, jackets, even flame retardant applications where safety is a concern. Check us out at 42stitches.com and shoot us an email to info@42stitches.com to get your project started. And again, big thank you to them for covering this series here. As again, we were talking about qualifying already underway. Mauricio Naselli in the 44, notably, he's up at the top of the charts here, leading in qualifying.
Yeah, but in the last minute, the top time has changed hands probably about 3 times. So we've still got 1 minute and 40 seconds left. That's enough for another lap. They probably got a couple more laps in them, and it's going to be tight to see who can come out on top. Right now there's only 0.03 of a second separating the top 2.
You know, new name that we haven't really talked about, at least at Interlagos, looking at the 65. And Vargas in that car. I'm sorry, Adrian, I'm not going to try to pronounce your middle name. But running pretty well in second place at the moment. Trying to see if he can try to get up to that top spot. Only 31 thousandths of a second behind Naselli. So you'll see if he can complete qualifying here with just a minute remaining for most of the field.
Yeah, Yerny Zoretz was actually atop the standings for a while. It'll be interesting to see if he's got anything that he was maybe holding back or can pull out of the hat in these last 45 seconds.
Yeah, we'll definitely see indeed. And again, as qualifying wrapping up, these guys should be able to complete the lap they have started. So everyone's still on an attempt, and you can see a lot of these guys going to be in groups. But first, what we were talking about earlier as we went live, the straightaway here at Road Atlanta, very long and definitely going to be a factor for these drivers. You know, we were talking about Interlagos. We thought that we wouldn't see a lot of, we'd see some relatively smaller packs. I think it's safe to see here, we're going to see much larger packs and larger group sizes.
I think you're looking at, instead of all those packs of 2 to 3 to 4 cars that we saw kind of gather last week, I think you're going to get larger packs together, and there will be some separation in there here throughout the line. But we're seeing a lot of different names towards the front that we did not see last week up there with Vargas, Zoretz, Dormelin, and some others up there. Right now, I mean, Felix Samois has just gone to P3. David Gaspers is only P11. Naselli is the only one who was part of the battle for the win last week that is in the top, has showed the pace all through this qualifying session that he can put in those consistent lap times.
Yeah, looking at Felix Simos ran pretty well last week as well. Had a solid finish in the third, completing our podium, and he's going to be starting in third here tonight. As it seems that way as qualifying's complete. I believe he completed his time. Looking at 65 Vargas coming down the back straightaway now, and you see this run for these drivers here heading into turn 5, and this is going to be the biggest passing opportunity for these drivers here at the end of the straightaway.
Yeah, it's going to be potentially a trouble spot as well. The good thing about this track versus last week is I think the braking zones, at least the heavy braking zones, are a lot straighter, and there's less left to right, where you're actually going to be on and off the brakes. So that should hopefully keep some of the mistakes we were seeing last week with cars turning around to a minimum this week, and it'll just keep everybody closer for that backstretch.
And it's always able to improve his top time by quite a bit. With Vargas and looks like a bunch of other drivers in behind not able to capitalize on it. So while qualifying is just wrapping up here, we'll take a chance to walk around a lap here at Road Atlanta. So, you know, you come down the front straightaway, you come down a very large hill. We'll talk about that again at the end of the lap. But to come flying across the start-finish line, heading down towards turn 1, or I should say up towards turn 1, and then also through turn 2 as well, switching back to the left. And then you got a really popular corner, at least for Kyle Heyer. Loves the corner because you can take a huge amount of curb through there, and it sets you up downhill for the S's in that first sector through turns 4 and then to turn 5. And you got to be careful in the exit of turn 5 because getting too wide, as you've seen in the past, can definitely catch a lot of drivers off guard.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky. If you're halfway on, halfway off, that curbing on the exit there can really upset the car. You kind of have to choose one way or the other. And it'll be interesting to see how they attack that corner in these cars here today.
Yeah, and then it's heading through turn 6 and 7 at the end of the back half of the course, heading down the long straightaway through 8 and 9, down towards turn 10, a heavy braking zone, and then up to turns 11, and then down to turn 12, another treacherous set of corners. That'll complete a lap here at Road Atlanta, and the field getting gridded up here. I think down the back straightaway here. I think we're gonna nope, they're on the front straightaway.
It's a full lap.
It is a full lap. Okay. So, and while we're doing that, we'll let the grid roll across the bottom of your screen. A very large grid, as these guys have been coming with astounding numbers. I gotta say, it's very rare to see a field so full. Another group of 60 cars ready to go green here at Road Atlanta. But as the field rolls across the bottom, Eric, if you were a driver in the field, what is going to be your biggest concern coming to this track?
I think the biggest concern is going to be that first bottleneck going down through the S's after the first couple corners. Trying to get single file and then getting off of that turn 5 exit as cleanly as possible. It's going to be very easy to, when everyone is so close to each other in this opening lap, there's less room for error. So it's going to be very easy for someone to get that corner wrong and potentially ruin a lot of people's days or cost a lot of people some time if they have issues there. So I think goal 1 is get to the backstretch cleanly, and then from there the race is on. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's just a matter of getting the field sorted out. Speaking of our field here, you can see the pace car, the Porsche pace car rolling off and getting our pace lap done here again for 45 minutes here tonight, or here this afternoon. A massive amount of Spec Racer Fords here rolling across the front straightaway. I'm trying to see, I got 51 of Sadro. I'm not sure exactly where he started, Eric, if you have that information, because it doesn't show a starting position for me.
The 51?
Yes. Looks like he's...
I've got him down in 23rd.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty low starting order. I mean, looking at where he finished the, as he was one of those drivers in that group we were watching last week at Interlagos, ended up finishing in 8th, but he's going to be starting way down the order. And also notably, I'm trying to see, where is David Gaspers?
He's down in P11.
Yeah, so a little bit lower of a starting position for him, but again, not too terribly far back. Obviously, you're not all the way back in 40th, which is definitely, you know, gonna put you back quite a bit. But we'll take a quick look at the weather here. Actually, nope, I can't look at the weather because the gridding graphics in the way. I'll take a look at the weather quickly before we go green, but also just, you know, some quick little tidbits about the track. Constructed in 1970. Fairly old, but also relatively new in comparison to some other circuits, and the whole turn 11 12 complex was completely renovated. It used to be a lot faster, a lot more dangerous, and also again situated in Braselton, Georgia. Population of 9,000. And this is one of the only tracks in real life I've been to. Is a fantastic racing facility. I'm kind of hoping some more series ended up coming here, like IndyCar and like NASCAR, because I think it's a very underutilized track.
I agree. I think IndyCar would race here really well. NASCAR now owns the track, so I'm actually pretty surprised that they haven't that there hasn't been really any discussion about bringing any of the NASCAR divisions to this track. But we should mention quickly before this gets going, everyone will be having to do a pit stop. The fuel capacity has been increased, so that window will be a little bit wider than it was last week for everyone, but probably around 20-minute mark, you might see people start splitting it in half.
Indeed, as you see the field come out of the final corner, pace car in, and already the green flag waving, and still most of the field is working through the final set of corners as we're at green here at Road Atlanta.
Nastelli out with a comfortable lead going into turn 1 here.
Yeah, and already so most of the field single file out again from starting down through turns 11 and 12, but now heading up to turn 3, and these guys got to be careful here, and this is where we're talking about that bottleneck early in the lap on the start. For the most part, it looks like everyone's taking it very easy and very cautiously here, now working through the S's.
Yeah, thankfully for probably most of the field, particularly the mid and the back of the field, everyone got fairly single file pretty quickly, and they can just get on with their business, and they're not having to deal with any kind of hectic actions.
And Nastelli and Timo's up at the top of the order, running really well and pretty much picking up right where they left off from last week. And now heading through turn 7, now onto the back straightaway. Now this is really where the draft is gonna come into play here. Gonna be a big factor, and you can see already Nastelli trying to hold off Timo's in behind, but I imagine the 31 going to be patient again with 40 minutes on the clock. You got a lot of time to work with.
It's possible these two run together. Well, he's going for the move now, so he's not being patient at all. He wants that lead.
And a little bit of a scrap for the lead early on, but you can already see our kind of leading group starting to separate out. All the way in the back of that group is notably the black and green one of David Gaspers, who was last week's winner at Interlagos. So he's trying to move his way back up through the order after starting decently way back. But again, the key thing really, I think, for him was staying in this lead group to have a shot at the win.
Yes, he has gained 3 positions already in the first lap. That's going to be big for his chances today. But it'll be interesting. Last week we saw Simois was very consistently pretty aggressive as far with racing throughout the entire 40-minute distance, taking opportunities when he had them come his way. Nastelli was a little bit more reserved, I think, and then when he got the chance to really make a move at the end against Gaspers for the win, there was some issues with a lapped car that had spun and kind of got in the way of his plans there. So going to look to see if Nastelli takes that same approach today, and if Simois it continues to be his aggressive style and get out there and just try to run away and be in the lead as much as possible.
Absolutely. We'll see our top 5 kind of accumulating now. Gotten a little bit stretched out from the rest of the pack. I doubt any of these guys in the leading group are going to be able to break away. We'll look down the rest of the order, some of the other drivers we got here. And notably, too, we didn't really capitalize or mention this a lot last week, too, is the fact that we do have 2 classes here. And really quick, again, we have the Spec 1 class with the drivers with over 3,000 iRating, which when you consider is a pretty high ceiling. There's not too many, terribly many drivers above that iRating cap. But that actually makes a majority or almost a really solid amount of drivers in the field. And those drivers are denoted by numbers lower than 200. Then we got the Spec 2 category, which is drivers less than 3,000 iRating, which for me at least I would be put in this category because I don't typically do a lot of official racing. Nor I think I'm as good of a driver comparison to most of the drivers in the field. Looking at Simon Mayer currently in the 308, and he's the leading of these drivers here. All the way in the middle of the field, you see, driver off the track, I believe that is Adam Bradshaw in the green and orange machine.
Yeah, it's been a much cleaner opening few laps as opposed to last week where we had a couple of instances of contact pretty early on. And I think, again, that just has a lot to do with the more spread out nature of the corners here. Simos goes way wide off of turn 5. Very aggressive on that curbing.
Yeah, we were talking about turn 5 a little bit earlier on. You can see these guys, considering how slow these cars are, it's not too terribly an issue. I would think you can see most of these guys relatively away from the wall, but you can see them all kind of riding that curb. And I think that's really the dangerous part, is getting too much of the curb as it really unsettles the car.
Yeah, as we see he's trying to once again get a breakaway, but if positions 2 and 3 work together, they'll be able to get back to him as they go down into this turn 10.
Yep, heading down into turn 10A, and it's kind of one of those awkward numbering situations. It's consider the chicanes are go through turn 10A now, as you see some action further in behind these drivers. A little bit of side-by-side action. The 41 car side by side with the 20, and himself, Tim Dorman. Malin? I think that's my best attempt at it. Running the 20
I'd go with Dormalin.
Alright, we'll go with that. Or we could just go with Tim, I think is probably the easiest way to pronounce it. Sorry, Tim, we butchered your name, but running back in 8th after dropping back after battle with the 41. Also looking at Austin Winter, who was fighting with David Gaspers earlier. And remember, he ran pretty well in Interlagos, almost had a shot at winning the race, but made an error and went off the track. So he's trying to rebound from that.
He's up to 7th at the moment. Gaspers has made his way by him. Gaspers is actually bridging the two groups here that at the front that have kind of broken apart, and he's going to be trying to chase down those top 4 here in a second.
Yeah, you can see it gets a great run for Austin Winter off at turn 5. He's going to make a move down now to the inside of the 41 car. And he's going to get that pass done up into 6th. And as you're talking about, David Gaspers on the move. And already making up some decent ground here. He's caught up to Zorik in the 82 machine.
Yeah, just taking a look back throughout the rest of the field. It's pretty much single file. You get a pass here or there. This is a very, very calm race so far. And we'll just have to see as things start to pick up as we get closer to that 20-minute mark.
Yeah, that's where, again, we were talking about, too. These guys are going to have to make a pit stop this race. So, and with the fuel limit being lifted, or not lifted, but increased. Ooh. Something happened? You look at the field now running through turn 1, or at least our leaders for the most part. Already most of the field spread out by quite a bit. See a car off into the grass, and trying to see who that is. It's Brett Holton, who we were looking at just a little bit early on, taking a bit of a trip through there. In turn 12, we were talking about these guys, coming to complete the lap here. And we've already seen a few drivers get a little bit off into the grass.
Yeah, I was just going back. Josh Arnold took a pretty wild ride through the grass after some contact going into turn 10A last lap. Then 3 wide again just after that, going into the final corner, which is what pushed Dalton off.
What position is Arnold at? In 21st?
Yeah, currently he's 21st. His last lap there was some 3 wide going down in turn 10A. It didn't go well, and that is what resulted in the 08 car going off, as what you pointed out.
I see. A little bit of clarification there, and you can see these guys still now. And this is really, as a driver, are you trying to, especially with this type of car, are you going to be trying to pass guys on the other parts of the track, or you're going to wait for this back straightaway?
I think we went over a little bit last week. If I'm able to be in the top positions here, and we can even go back to the Redenzo Sports Car Series race here we did a couple months ago, where I just, when I was in the back of the pack in the second race, I had to go as hard as I can, take the passes when I could get them. But once you get up to the front, if you're part of that lead group, you kind of just want to hang around and wait to make your mark, because you're not going to really be able to get away from the pack in these cars, these slower cars where the draft is going to mean so much. So if you're up at the front, you kind of just want to ride, make sure you position yourself where you need to be at the end of the race and going into the pit stop.
Whoa! Simo sideways in turn 5 is gonna somehow correct the car. Oh boy! As he spins around, it's a bit of a dangerous place. Whoa! Almost just got nailed, and still kind of on the racing line. He finally gets the car corrected, but man, what a wild ride! And I was actually kind of surprised to see him get this loose.
There were some code browns there for sure.
Yeah, we'll see him spin back, and this gets you a really good look at how close he was to.
Oh, that was scary.
You're right, a little bit further back to see exactly how he got so loose. And, it's too much curve, it seems.
So my question for him would be, was that just a random mistake that would have happened no matter what, or is maybe this part of the aggressive nature of the way that he races that got him into that trouble? And maybe that wouldn't have happened if he was a little bit more reserved in his style of driving here. But I mean, it pays off for him. He's at the front. We were talking about him all race last week, so.
And look what this also did to our leading group. It actually put a little bit of a gap between Naselli and Gaspers, almost a second, which is almost borderline to being able to break away from the rest of the field. And Naselli had this pretty much play out like it did at Okayama, which was the first race of the season we went to. There was a wreck earlier on in the race, so with the leaders, and Naselli was able to pretty much break away and drive away from the rest of the field. So he's looking to potentially do that again. And I'm sure David Gaspers, who's now, you can see, climbed up into second place. He doesn't want to let that happen. It's kind of amazing, too, with these guys so neck and neck. With Gaspers winning last week at Interlagos, finished second at Okayama. Naselli won at Okayama, but finished second at Interlagos. These guys almost tied in the points, except for Naselli, who's got a few more bonus points to his name.
There's a Gaspers in the standings with Michael Dobek in third place.
Yeah, actually, speaking of which, trying to check
between these two.
Yeah, I'm trying to check. Here's Michael Dobek a little bit further back in 11th place. You see him; he's got a bit of a gap to Ian Haycox. At 35, who's up ahead. Ian Haycox ran pretty well at Okayama and Interlagos. Finished 7th at both those races. Running a little bit worse than that, running in 10th. But still solid top 10 for Haycox in the 35.
Yeah, Gaspers has caught Naselli. That was bound to happen. Gaspers has already closed the gap earlier in this race that was similar to that. I think the question is now, as he goes for a look on Naselli in turn 1, are these two going to be able to break apart from the third and fourth place of Vargas and Zoretz?
Yeah, Zoretz, I think, and Vargas for that matter too. I don't think they're going to be able to break. They're pretty much caught up to him here as they head through turn 3. I think that's just due to these guys battling it out, so that's kind of brought them back. But we were looking at a much bigger pack, but after that incident with Simos, which caused, I think, a lot of the guys to check up, seeing this pack reduced by quite a bit, only now to 4, which is pretty similar to what we had last week at Interlagos.
Yeah, and with the expanded fuel capacity this round, I think we're maybe a couple minutes away from the window opening where they'll be able to pit and make it to the end from here. So it'll be on the lookout for anyone trying different strategies. This is one of those situations where you have to weigh, particularly if you're in this lead group, how much is the lap times from the draft worth versus being able to get out there and run by yourself.
And one driver who took the opportunity to come down pit road is Felix Simos in the 31 machine. Almost came in, I would say, almost too early, but we'll see again with the number expanded by increase of 10% to the fuel capacity from 35 to 45%. We'll see if this is going to play out. I think that should be enough. So we'll see if he's going to be able to, where he can try to end up after and try to recover. He came in, I think, at around 15th place, so we'll see if he can improve on that position.
Gaspers, Naselli tried to make a move on Gaspers. Gaspers came back through turns 10A and 10B, and then through the next couple corners, Vargas was actually able to get up into second over Naselli and is now challenging Gaspers.
Yeah, how about Vargas? I want to say he's a new driver. I don't really see him in the standings, but if at the very least has never been this high up, currently running in second and has a really solid shot of winning the race here. He's also shown some speed too after qualifying in second place, so definitely a driver to keep an eye on, and I think going to keep both Gaspers and Naselli and give them a run for their money.
Yes, it's really impressive actually to see a couple new drivers at the front of the field here who are putting on just as good a show as we got last week with Simoes, Gaspers, Winner, and everyone who was involved in that one.
How about for Zoretz too, looking behind? I just found out where he finished last week. Interlagos finished all the way back down to 53rd, which is definitely the place you don't want to be, but currently running significantly better than that up in 4th. And this is, again, looking at the total, season as far as points, it really helps to finish up and especially get you out of a rut after finishing in 53rd, so running really well in 4th. And do you think, you know, because he wants to make sure he gets a good points finish to improve his place in the standings, do you think he might be a little bit more conservative compared to the guys in the front?
I'm not sure about if they do any drop weeks in this series, but if you have such a low finish in the early weeks, it almost can kind of put you in the situation where handcuffs are off, and you can kind of go out there and be a little bit more aggressive, knowing that guys like Gaspers and Naselli, they're going to be up front all day long, probably every week, from what we've been able to see these first 2 or 3 rounds. So they probably won't be able to afford a 53rd place finish. So you can kind of almost bully them, knowing that they have a lot more to risk if things go bad than you do at the moment. So it kind of depends on how you want to look at it from your own perspective and your own style of driving.
Yeah, I just saw contact between Rothgrens and also Hugh Haycox, and Haycox took the worst end of that deal, is going to drop back down to 13th. Rothgren's going to continue on in 7th place. Also looking, I'm curious to see, here we got Austin Winner here in the 033, and you can see these guys are almost within draft range of the cars ahead, but just trailing off. And lap time wise, compared to our leaders, I'm trying to see here for comparison, these guys are running really close in the lap times. And here we go, right there is the delta, only a 10th off for Winner off of Gasper's best time, so definitely within distance, but needs to start putting in better times to catch these guys.
Yes, Gasper's was the...
Yep, cut off there, Eric.
Oh, I was saying Gasper's was the quickest last lap, and just over a 10th was Winner behind.
This time by for these drivers as they come back across the line. Still an improvement for Gasper, so not completely working up for the 033, but still within the tail of our leaders. And again, coming down to the pit stops, which we imagine these guys are going to either come in now or maybe try to stay in the group. I have to see, and this is what we're talking, as you were talking about earlier, you know, is it worth coming into pit road by yourself to get some clean air to work with, or is it better to ride in the draft and ride off the coattails of other drivers, maybe even, you know, save your tires? Because this is a 40-minute race, so you're going to be working them quite a bit, and if you're abusing them too much, it could definitely hurt you, or at least I think it would hurt you later on.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe Naselli's game, compared, just considering how we saw him race last week, and even this week. When he gets behind, he's not being aggressive to get back up to Gasper's. He's confident that he's going to be able to keep touch and still have a shot at this, even if he's not challenging Gasper's every single braking zone for that lead. So yeah, but right now, without the kind of pressure from behind, Gasper's is also able to take care of his stuff. So I think right now a lot of the top 4 is in a bit of a waiting game.
Matter just buying out the time here as this race pretty much flying by. We're already 20 minutes in and ready to go forward for the next 20 minutes as we're just approaching halfway. As far as pit stops are concerned, a good amount of drivers in the back half of the field. The highest of our drivers out of pit was Steven Elson. Currently looking at him in 25th position. Started in 19th, so I think was running inside the top 20, I think safe to say, and is now dropped back out after he made his pit stop. So still waiting on the rest of the guys to file in. And this is what we're talking about too, you know, again with the pit window being open for these drivers with more fuel, we're going to see, I think, a lot more variability. It gives these drivers a lot more options to work with.
Yeah, I kind of don't expect the leaders, or at least Gasper's. I think he's probably going to run it out, kind of see what everybody behind him does before he chooses to make his move. Because at this point, he really doesn't... He can react to those behind. He's got the pace to do so. So he can kind of see what they do and cover it the next time by.
Yeah, and good friend Yannick Chow, and we haven't talked about him this race so far. You know, typically starts in the back, works his way up, and yet again, started in 59th, is currently up in 24th, so doing his typical strategy of having the worst average starting position, I think, of anyone in the field. but trying to just raise his way back to the front. So far, I mean, the first 3 weeks he's done it, it's worked out pretty well, all things considered. Hasn't been involved in any incidents.
A charity should get involved with him, and or someone should get involved with him and start putting some money on the line for every car he passes each week. As we have a change for the lead with Vargas going around Gaspers in turn 10B.
And Vargas now up into the lead, and we'll see here how long he's going to be able to maintain it. And again, this is, I would consider for the most part, fuel, as you see Gasper work back to the inside here, now heading towards turn 1. We'll see this probably change back over, depending on how aggressively they fight. Ooh, really aggressively, as they almost door each other through turn 1.
This is that scenario where if you're Vargas, you know Gaspers is in the points hunt, and you can take that risk, put him in the bad situation, make him have to weigh the pros and cons of going too hard.
And
that's what I would do.
Yeah. And looking a little bit further in behind, a change for 5th place. Gorka Turret in the 41 car is currently up into 5th place. He just got past Austin Winter, and actually starting to make some better inroads in towards our leaders than Winter did. So we could start to see this little group form up from 4 to 6 cars, and I don't think that's what the leaders need. They don't want more players in the game, they want less.
No, but slow each other up so we get those 2 cars to catch, because this is going to be pretty interesting as we have now crossed halfway. And I think any moment now we shouldn't be surprised to start seeing cars pull to the right and to make their pit stop.
Yeah, and especially too, as I could see from our leaders, there's some lap traffic approaching, and I think honestly, as the leaders, I feel like a better scenario is to pit before lap traffic is a factor. But we'll see here. They might have another lap before they catch up to him. It looks like our 4 leaders, they're going to continue out on the track.
Definitely, if you think that you're going to catch lap traffic, and you're sitting 3rd or 4th, maybe even 5th here in line, if you think the leaders are going to catch traffic this lap, diving down pit road is not a bad idea, because them getting slowed up half a second to a second dealing with lap traffic could make a huge difference in the running order on the other end of these pit stops.
Yeah, looking at the rest of the field, some other action going on. Bobby West in the 89 car. He's holding off Adam Bradshaw, who we were looking at earlier in the race. These guys kind of in their own little group, just a train of cars. And behind there's Josh Arnold, Simon Mayer. Again, Mayer, our leading S2 driver. Ooh, as you see West go into the grass, off into the tire wall at the exit of turn 3. And unfortunate time to cut to his car as he just got involved in an incident a little bit further back. And I'm actually kind of surprised we haven't seen this turn catch up more drivers.
Yeah, let's take a look at what happened there. Did he just got on? It looks like he hit the curbing on the right a little bit too hard, and that pushed him too far over to the left, caught the grass, and that's what sent him into the tire barriers there. Can't say I haven't done that about 100 times. So.
Yeah, and typically the slower car is the slower the cars are, a little bit easier to drive through some of these corners. So, as you see,
oh, we got pit. Vargas has pulled off to pit lane, as Gaspers is going to be running into lap traffic this time by. Although,
whoa! And the 41 Itura in the background comes spinning onto pit road.
Oh wow! Well, that's going to hurt his chances, as he looked promising to be able to catch these top 4 here. But looks like he's just going to overcook it, trying to make as much time to pit lane as possible.
Oh, yeah, look at him just absolutely booking it. Wow, he came flying into pit road. And the reason why he was doing that is because if you can push the limits, you can really actually make quite a bit of time on pit road for guys that are being a little bit more cautious. The problem is situations like this where you come in just too hot, and unfortunately had quite a bit of a spin. So he's going to lose more time than he would have liked. That was looking to try to gain.
Yeah, you can gain a lot of time, or you can be like me yesterday and sit on pit road for 40 seconds serving a penalty.
Also, a lap car there getting some grass and also getting sideways right in front of our leaders, and now they're kind of in the thick of this traffic, and I can imagine that one of them is gonna, or could see all of them here come this time by, because now they're really starting to get into the thick of the field. But if you're one of these guys, maybe. And here's the other side of things too. Instead of coming in early, if the rest of the guys pit, maybe do you want to try to stay out and empty the tank?
And then the cars, then say Vargas is at the moment. Naselli looks like he's peeling off.
And he's coming down onto pit road. And so Gasper is going to stay out, as well as Zortek Zork in the 82 car.
I believe last lap it did cost Gaspers and Naselli some time getting around some lap traffic. So I'm going to go back here and take a look at Naselli, where he comes out of pit lane as opposed to Vargas.
All the rest of our leaders here. So Gasper's there, you see coming through the S's, and Zorit in behind. Ooh. Someone get sideways there? I think I heard someone up, but I think it's just the tire screaming. I thought someone spun out in turn 5 yet again. For Naselli, he's just come out of pit road back into 10th place.
Oh, he was out ahead of Vargas by a lot. So Vargas was not able to make up the ground. I think he was hoping he would by pitting as the leaders were hitting lap traffic, or he might have just not had a very good in-lap.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate because looking at the pit time, yeah, he spent an extra 3 seconds on in his pit stop actually. So I think, well, we might have seen he might have just taken too much fuel. Because looking at it, I actually can pull it up here for people to see. Not that number.
Gasper's coming to pit lane, it looks like. Yep. Oh.
Something happened to him?
He just looked like he almost clipped the grass on entry, but he very solid and quick entry to pit lane. Gasper's is looking good so far here.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to point out that I found between Mauricio and Naselli, and look at the pit stop time. 12.3 for Naselli. You go all the way back to Vargas, who is almost he lost 1.7 seconds down up pit road. And I think the pit stop time is definitely why. You can see 14 seconds stop for Vargas, so I think again just took more fuel than Naselli, and that's gonna kind of separate themselves. So he's gonna have to drive now a heavier car, nonetheless, up to Naselli to try to get back in that leading pack, because he's definitely gonna be off of it now.
Yeah, and Gasper's coming out with a pretty good margin over Naselli here.
You can see the gap right there to these drivers here as they're working in the last just inside 13 minutes left to go in this race. The Gasper's looking to cycle out to be a leader, then Naselli in behind, and effectively they're going to pick up right where they left off from the last 2 weeks, chasing down one another.
Yeah, these are definitely the titans of this series. It looks like the top two that are going to be really hard to knock off the top couple steps of the podium here. But Gasper's dealing with some traffic right now, could cost him some time and help Naselli out.
And still, even with them pitting, this kind of puts them back in behind drivers that might have not come to pit road. Although, looking at the list of drivers, it looks like all but about 6 drivers on the track have made their pit stop for this race. Looking at our leader, Erwin Rocklands, and he's actually just coming into pit road now. There's 69, so he's going to peel off there. Orza, who we saw actually do pretty well at Okayama, didn't do quite well last week at Interlagos. He's now also going to come in. That should cycle the lead back out to David Gasper. Just got around Josh Arnold in the 3070. See now coming to pit road, as well as Simon Mayer, 308, our S2 leader.
Gasper's is the big winner out of that pit cycle.
Yeah, look at the gap.
A really decent lead over Naselli here, and that's going to be a very difficult task for Naselli to close down that gap in just over 10 minutes.
Are we surprised that that there's such a big difference for our drivers as far as, the lead between them? Because I was kind of expecting these guys more or less to kind of shoot back out where they came in.
You'd have to kind of go back and look at the laps before and after they pit. They might have had some traffic that got in Naselli's way. I think he was held up worse than Gasper's was. But Gasper's had a great entry to pit lane, and that itself could gain a second or two, if not more, over Naselli, who might have just been a little bit more conservative getting to pit lane. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is it all matters. All those seconds, all those milliseconds are going to count, and Gaspers has been able to put together a really solid effort from starting 11th here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're looking here at Ian Haycock's riding through turn 7. Now you see him jump a curb as he's trying to catch up to Emil Orza up ahead. He actually lost a bit of time. As we were looking at him, he was almost 4/10 close to Orza and now dropped back almost 2 seconds. So kind of falling off the pace. And one driver I'm actually kind of surprised, speaking of pace, that we haven't really seen further up, is Daniel Cedro in 17th place. He's not particularly had a good race.
No, he has not really shown much here today. He'll be looking forward to packing things up and moving on to the next race. As checking in on our Yannick Chauvin, he looks like he's P12 at the moment.
He's having a great... Actually, no, he's further back. He just came into the pit.
Okay.
Yeah, I know iRacing timing a bit annoying like that. So once he comes across the line, it should correct. But for him, we have him all the way back in 25th, which is still, again, really good compared to where he started. But I really think he should just qualify.
It would be interesting to see what kind of pace he has,
right? Because he's a quick
here at the front. But
he's clearly a quick driver. At least I would say well within the top 20 pace, maybe even the top 10. But yeah, he's been too busy. I mean, hey, if he enjoys doing it, who am I to disagree with that? But I just want to see him, potentially have a shot at winning the race because he's got some pretty solid pace in that 13 machine.
Yeah, if that seems to be the way he likes to run these things, and he isn't really interested in the points of it all or the racking up the wins. Just looks like it's a personal challenge for him every week to see how far back he can come from and get as good a finish as possible.
It's a driver we haven't talked about in a little bit. Felix Simos, overall, pretty decent recovery after having a spin. We saw him recover back to 15th, and he's driven his way back up after coming in on an early pit stop. Used the fresh car to his advantage and clean air to come all the way back up to 5th. So really good recovery.
Yeah, I was going to mention him a couple laps ago, seeing his recovery. It was it's pretty impressive, and again, he's kicking himself that he made that mistake and he isn't part of this battle potentially with Gaspers here. But Gaspers consistently is the fastest car on the track. It's going to take a huge mistake, which I have not seen him make one last week or so far here today. So it looks like it's all going to be David Gasper's race here to lose with about 7 minutes to go.
Yeah, and we'll see again if lap traffic can come into play, which did come into play last week. Remember, there was a lap car just at the final corner of Interlagos, prevented anyone from catching Gaspers back to the line. So he's kind of hoping he doesn't get in a similar situation or where the lap traffic is a problem for him. Looking at Vargas, I think might have made a mistake. He's fallen all the way back to the clutches of Zort and all the way back and forth.
Vargas' race kind of fell apart around the pit stop cycle, and the decision made on when to pit and his in and out lap did not go the way that he wanted, which is, I'm sure, disappointing for him. He looks like he was showing pace to potentially challenge Gaspers here for the win, and he's probably ruining the day that this series decided pit stops were going to be a thing.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm actually kind of surprised here. So looking at Zord's pit stop, he had a pit stop time of 10.8 and didn't have the fastest in and out off of pit road. That goes to David Gaspers. So I'm a bit surprised he ended up all the way back and forth. I would have thought, considering his shorter pit stop, especially in comparison to Vargas up ahead, who had a 14-second stop, almost 3 seconds more than Zort's, that he ended up ahead. So kind of interesting to see these guys, the way it kind of all came together. For some, it was a lot better, and for others, not so much.
Last lap, Felix Simois was the quickest car on track. Unfortunately, it was only a few hundredths quicker than David Gaspers, so it's not going to do him too much good. But Simois is going to be looking to catch Zoritz for a fourth place finish here and complete his rebound. And
It's going to be
from
kind
his
of
spin.
could be a little bit tough. He's got quite a bit of a gap back to Zoritz up ahead. It's 4.5 seconds with 5 minutes remaining. If he can do that, I think it'll be absolutely spectacular. And I think he's kind of hoping that these guys have some incident up ahead as they're getting closer and closer together, which definitely could happen in the later parts of a race. Vargas and Zoritz work through turn 10 A and B. There comes also Simos and Rothkins. Make contact with their driver early on in the race. Rothkins up in 6th, trying to get past Simos, but quite hasn't found a way past the 31 car.
Yeah, Zoritz right now is looking trying to get his way onto the third step of the podium by tracking down Vargas. He's just about in range for the draft to kind of start pulling him up on the backstretch here and potentially make a last-ditch effort on one of these final laps to get himself on to the top 3.
And now working through the S's. We only really seen, at least from what we're watching on stream, we have only seen really one major incident with the CMOs spinning out in turn 5 for the most part. At least to our knowledge, the field has made it through there pretty unscathed.
Yeah, it just goes to show, and not that this track is necessarily easy, but goes to show how difficult Interlagos was, or maybe just how little people, these drivers are used to that track, where we saw quite a bit of spins and moments of contact between cars last week. This week's been pretty clean, like we said, just really that big, just a couple moments here this week that have caused drivers some headaches, but overall, very clean race, much to David Gasper's in his favor. So, yeah, solid race from these guys again this week.
Wow, he's got a massive amount of lap cars up ahead of him. I think he'll be hard pressed to call this race called, as you see a driver out in front of him. Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw the car coming back into the track. I couldn't tell that it spun out in front of him. Let's take another look at that again. Another close miss.
I mean, Naselli needed that, but he wasn't able to capitalize on that, unfortunately. So Gasper is still okay, but when you look at the line of laps cars he has ahead of him,
it's just another look at that from the TV camera to get another look at how close Gasper's was. We were talking about the race being called. Definitely wasn't there. He almost was involved in a wreck right in the racing line. Did a great job slowing down and getting turned in time to avoid that, but man.
So if you're Gaspers, do you kind of back off right now and just kind of let these guys...
Well, looking at the sheer amount of cars ahead of him, he's got 5 guys that are still kind of battling it out, and he's got to navigate through them. As we come back to the line, we're going to get 2 laps to go. So he might want to back off to the point where he can just kind of try to pick and choose where he can pass these guys. Otherwise, he's going to be in for some work here. And I think always the big danger, as we saw, is a lap car. One of these guys end up getting into a wreck. And right in front of him, he has nowhere to go.
These guys seem to be very respectful of what's going on here with the lead coming through. So it doesn't look like they're going to pose much of an issue for him.
Yeah, you can see them all pulling.
Maybe racing each other.
Yeah, you can see them all pulling out of line. They're giving respect to the leader to work their way on through. Don't want to be involved factor. You see another driver off the track in turn 1.
He's got a very comfortable lead at the moment, but seeing cars go off the way that they have in front of him is not exactly what you want to happen.
Definitely not a confidence booster as far as, being able to finish this race unscathed, because I'm sure he was a definite code brown for him. And that's what you're talking about, especially when you have a decent lead coming to the end of the race. You kind of go into autopilot mode. You feel like you have the race won, and that, I think, threw him back into race mode again, if anything, because, wow, I just cannot stress how close that was to taking out the leader of the race.
Back for third place. Vargas.
Yeah, this.
No, Zortz. Who was out front? Zortz or Vargas?
No, Vargas was up ahead. Zortz has got back on by into third place. So
that's
this
what
battle,
I thought.
though,
My timing was a little bit wonky there for a second, but that's what I thought. So he was able to run him down and get by.
yeah. Although now the thing is he gonna be able to hold it because Vargas clearly in the draft of him, but up at the front of the field. But we're gonna be really close on time here. 10 seconds remaining in the race. I'm curious to see if Gaspers might try to time this. He's got 4 seconds to play with. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No, checkered flag out. This lap, we're 1 lap shorter than we thought. Gasper's going to come across the line, and he's going to take the win here at Road Atlanta. Mauricio Naselli going to come home in second place, and I'm not sure if Vargas, there's a wreck at the line with some lap cars, as Vargas and Zort come across the line. Vargas is able to get the spot back and finish ahead of Zortz for third place. Felix Simos, you see there, come across the line in fifth. Rounding out top 5, Rotkins, Sergio Girelli in the 86, Steven Elson in 8th. Tim in the 20 is going to come across in 9th, and Ian Heika. Oh, actually, no, Tim's gone off the track into the grass as his car is completely destroyed. Gonna try to get it corrected. Looks like he's going to limp to the line in 12th.
Looks like Simon Mayer is going to come across the line and take your win in the S2 class of drivers.
A great job for him all the way back there. How about that four-car packet coming across the line? Still a lot of racing as these drivers come to complete the race.
I expected to only get the white flag there. On when they crossed the line the lap before, but the timing and scoring on iRacing must have decided to cut them a break.
Yeah, it was showing estimated on that we were going to take 25 laps. It ended up being, again, 1 lap shorter, only 24. But with our race completed, we'll take the ticker away here. We'll take a quick look at your race results. Again, David Gasper is taking a really solid win. Second win of the season, and again, he's been so consistent. Even Naselli, you have to lump him in. Again, our quote-unquote titans of the series so far. Both of these drivers have not finished lower than second place in the first 3 rounds.
They're definitely setting themselves apart from the rest of the field here. And it's going to be fun to watch these drivers trade blows. Naselli, I think, though, is going to have to strike back because Gasper's winning 2 in a row now is going to set him apart here, and Naselli's not going to want to let him get that far out ahead in the points.
Yeah, and heading back to second page of drivers 11 through 20, with notably Michael Dobek, who is running 3rd in the points, had finished 4th in both races, finished all the way back in 13th, so now I think the ideal finish he would have liked. Daniel Sadro has moved himself up into 15th, so a little bit of an improvement. And again, Simon Mayer, your S2 winner, finishing in 16th. So with that, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll grab some drivers here, and you don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're back live here at Road Atlanta with your race winner, David Gaspers, in the number one machine. And David, really showing that you do deserve the number one car after your second win of the season. Walk us through how your race went, pretty much leading the entire second half of the race.
Yeah, I got a bit unlucky in qualifying. I had a good lap, but never had any draft, so I only qualified in 11th, I think. After that, I was trying to gain some positions without losing too much time. That worked quite well. And after that, I just tried to stay in the front, so no one could really slow me down with a pit entrance, for example. And after I saw that, I think it was Adrian stopped behind me first, I had a small gap and just tried to do some fast laps because I didn't want to risk coming out behind some traffic. And after the stop, I had a clear track almost all the way.
Yeah, and speaking of traffic, you definitely had quite a bit of an interesting interaction with traffic. We saw you narrowly avoid getting involved in a wreck in turn one. Describe how, did that affect your race afterwards at all? Were you more focused? Were you trying to be, conserve yourself a lot more through traffic? Or were you unfazed by a car almost taking you out of the race?
That was close. No, I didn't change anything there. I don't think it would have helped if I changed anything there. It was just someone that spun. I didn't have any other problems with someone that let me by or I had to get by. So yeah, it can happen all the time that someone spins. There's not really a way you can prepare for that.
All right, and with that, I think that'll be it for this race. David, thanks for talking to us, and best of luck for the remaining rounds of the season.
Thank you.
Looks like we got Yurni Zoritz in the number 82 car, and thanks for talking to us, Yurni. We were watching you race. You had an interesting race with the 65, and just kind of, describe how your race went from your perspective.
Well, at the start, it went pretty well, but then when we had the pit stop, we went in same time as David, and I missed my stall, so I had to reverse. I think that cost me the second place, and then one more mistake when I went off track. I think that cost me the podium, but I'm very happy with the top 5.
Yeah, we actually both, me and Eric, were wondering, why you ended up falling back so far back with the shorter pit stop. I guess that explains why. Do you think, if that didn't happen to you, do you think you would have had a shot of the race? Besides, you're kind of laying back also earlier on. Did you have kind of a game plan in mind of how you're going to try to take the win?
I just wanted to sit back. I didn't want to risk any stupid mistake. And in the end, it was a good decision because I finished the race with, I think, half a liter of fuel left. So it was a good choice. But I don't think I would be able to pass David. He's too good for me in the last part of the track.
Well, you weren't able to get him this week, but hopefully you get him next week when we head to, I'm trying to see, we're heading to Summit Point.
Yeah, all I can do is try. We'll see how it goes. Thank you guys for the broadcast.
Yeah, no problem. We'll definitely see how it plays. Thanks for talking to us. All right, and with that, I think that's going to wrap up our interviews here tonight. Erica, I think we were in for another really solid race here with this group of drivers.
Yeah, it was a very clean, very solid race. A lot of respect shown, particularly late in that race with the lap traffic, which is always good to see. Um, things kind of fell apart. I think you would honestly have expected the opposite results, as far as you would have expected the group of four battling for the win at the end of this race, and not necessarily at the end of Interlagos, just because of the layout of the tracks. But that's how racing goes sometimes. And you heard there seemed to be a lot of mistakes on pit lane and their pit in lap, pit out lap, and just even on the lane itself. So there it is. Gasper's up 2 wins now. Naselli needs to strike back go next week at Summit Point, and I mean that's kind of a bull ring of a racetrack, probably the equivalent of going to Bristol for stock car drivers. So, that could be a game changer for the season.
Yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see how things play out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to wrap up coverage for SYM TV this afternoon. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching. And enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We're SYM TV. My name is Finny DeCuna, and I'm with Eric Mickey, and we're going to be signing out.